Hey guys, this is Resonant, and I want to do a breakdown of my song Stay from the new album. Give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek um, into the song, how we made it, and then just into the session and what I find interesting about the project. This song took a lot of work, um, mainly um, mainly on the mixing end, but I think it took a lot of work in the production end too because I started this song February February 20th, I think, and it just didn't really fit anywhere. And I had like an acoustic guitar track and like a vocal line, and that was about it. And then kind of had to build it from there. So I kind of saved it, and I didn't really know when my next album would be. So I was just hoping that it could stick around and we could kind of work on it as we go. And then something kind of fell in my lap, and we decided to go for it, and it ended up perfectly fitting into what we wanted to do for this. And so we kind of built out the track, and as we're going, um, I was we kind of like fully produced the song, and then I got that thing where like I really liked the song, but I didn't want to mix it yet. And I knew what the issues were. I had a list of things that I needed to fix, but I didn't know how to fix it. So I waited till we kind of like mixed the whole album and made sure that it was good. And and it was worth the wait because once we got the levels down, it sounded great. It was perfect, and the guys really helped me really find my vision with this song because it's such an important song to me and to the album storyline. And I just wanted to make sure that it was as good as it could be, and I think we got it there. So if we can get into the project now, um, what I've got sitting here, um, let's start with the acoustic guitar track. I mixed this one in another project because my laptop isn't really working for inputs right now for like recording stuff. So we kind of like mixed this. We basically mixed this one in like GarageBand, and then we sent it to another Logic file, and we did the rest of the mixing on it, making sure everything's good. We ran this guitar through like an amp, and then kind of just messed it up with vibrato and like a little bit of chorus and stuff, and then we bounced it into this project. So as you can see, the audio is a little bit messed up, but let me just solo it for you guys, and we can see everything good. Yeah. The main thing for mixing this acoustic guitar was taming the low string to make sure there wasn't too much bass frequency from that, because in like alt pop, synth pop kind of thing, like the bass needs to be the thing. The bass and the kick needs to be the thing that holds it down. Whereas in like singer songwriter, you can have more liberty for the acoustic to shine a little bit more on all frequencies. So I kind of had to do that, but without losing out of the body of the guitar. And then there's a string that rings out like dun da 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 da. So we had to make sure that string, as it rang out, didn't like pierce you with that frequency. So making sure that that fit. Um, but yeah, we ran it through like a basic, just like clean amp. We turned down the treble and then like turned up the bass slightly, did like a vibrato, and then we did an EQ on top of that, and that was just trimming a lot of the highs, like doing a low pass filter, and then just muffling up the sound, making sure it kind of fit in the world that we wanted the song to sit in, and that's what we came up with. And then we just have like a pad here. Um, and that's just a basic Logic pad. So we have that, and then to open the song, we have these drums, which I actually just programmed these songs, this drum pattern, the day we were mixing the album. I ended up hating the drums, and they weren't like really workable, so I played out all of the parts for this, and then we just kept the drum kit here. Um, and here are the drums here. And what we actually have there is two hi-hats. One hi-hat is panned to the left. This is just one that's really dirty. Um, and then we have this one, which I'm running through the spectral gate filter from Logic on Add Sparkle. And what it turned into like this ringing, like boingy sound, I guess. There's no other way to explain it, but and then that's just in the center. But I mixed it to where oh, I mixed it to where that ringing comes in through here, but it doesn't outshine the hi hat. It kind of just like adds this little bit of a thing to it, and this is that. And then for the snare, I'm using a drum kit that I use all the time, all over this album, which is the Portland kit from Logic, and it has this really nice punchy snare, and it's the only kit from Logic that has this. But this snare hits just a little bit less than the kick does, and that's just natural. And then on top of that, I just wanted to really make it hit, so I did my basic like drum EQ, and then I did the punchy snare on the tube EQ. Then I did a chroma glow and then dual compression to bring out like the detail in the snare hit and really make it hit as hard as it can. And then just make sure it's not making the snare loud or anything. But this is the snare. And I think, yeah, I have a high pass filter. Um, the hardest thing in mixing this album was the low end. Like, I don't, um, when we were mixing it, we didn't have any like studio monitors, which I would like a pair, but we just didn't have any on hand. But my family at my house has not like studio monitors, but like theater speakers, and they have like a subwoofer set. So what I did is, which you might have seen, I made like a short of showing like as I was mixing the album, but we plugged it into the TV and did the input, and then we just like screen shared it or screencast it into the TV, and then I used that subwoofer to mix the low end of the album and make it relatively consistent. I made the low end less on songs like "Long Day to Say Goodbye," "Time to Go," "Here with Me," um, "Backroads," and stuff. So like the bass and the kick is a little bit buried under all of the mid range elements, and that's just because they're more like folky acoustic songs that I don't need anything to hit that hard. But on songs like "Stay," "Fool," "Forget," "Trust," those like four songs are all like very dance pop influenced. Something like a Harry Styles song. Um, so those I needed the kick and the bass to really roar. So we mixed it that way. So if you can feel it in the kick. It's just it hits. And for this one, I'm taking off 6 dB of sub, which is massively insane to take off that much. Like adding that much, okay, well you wanted that much, but like taking off that much was insane, and it still just hits. So I don't know if you can feel this. If you're doing like headphones like me, you can really feel it, but this is without it. You can feel just like that presence go away. And then after that, to start the song, as you can see, I just automated a high pass filter on this buzz to go down as we're going. And then as we're going, we introduce this tambourine. And then I usually pan it anywhere from -5 to -10, this side around right here. But because the hi-hat was taking up space, I followed a rule that Phineas set when he was on the Tape Notes podcast. And he said that if something's going on here, it has to go here because the production has to be like balanced scales. And it has to sit. Nothing can be off balance. And that's what makes like the perfect mix. So I just planned this off the exact amount the other way. So then you can feel the tambourine and the hi-hat. Is it perfect? No. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to tip the scale. And then as we're going through, we bring in that's my cat, sorry. We bring in the Portland kit, and this is where we add in the shaker and this. And then what I did for that, I wanted a little bit less sub just because it's an acoustic kick now. And I kept the relative same amount of hit in the snare. But and then I just added a shaker and I made it like halftime to the rest of the song, just so that I felt like it was kind of moving like this. Um, and then I did some. I just did a bunch of clap samples during this part, and I just kind of layered them, and then I kind of mixed them together to make them feel like they're like in the same space. And you wouldn't even tell that that's, 4 samples. But so adding up all of these things, you have this drum production for the, I don't know, is this second verse? So you have that, and then moving on to the more interesting part of the production, which would be the keys and synths, which I had a lot of help with. Um, just finding melodies and different things. Let's start with this keyboard, which this keyboard is all over the album. Like every song has this. Backroads, Nostalgic for You, that's the main piano sound. Fool, Away. No, 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 not Away. Uh, Trust, Forget. Anyway, I have to name all the songs. They're like 19 songs. But so this is the sound that we did. And I played that one myself. And then all I did was just do quantize and then just pull the notes up just a smidge. I still wanted to keep it like a human performance, just make sure it's on time because I've got a drummer's brain, just like Charlie does, obviously, who drums on this entire album. And um, one of the like the pet peeves that me and my team has mainly throughout the entire process is do what you got to do, play your part, obviously, but you better go back and quantize because we're gonna clown you forever. It has to be in time, so that's something that we had to do. And we opened up with this piano or this like synth melody to open it, and it's kind of like eerie, I guess, in a way. It kind of sets the dark vibe that this whole production kind of sits in. Um, and all I did was put just a bunch of stuff to really crap out the sound and make it the way I wanted it to. And here's let me just show you like the main production up to this point and just show you kind of like the synth as it comes in. So we have that. I guess we should probably introduce the bass here. And again, we mixed this in a different project and recorded it through. And I wanted personally, and I know this is really weird, but I didn't want it to necessarily follow the notes of the song. I wanted it to kind of like sit as this drone, I guess, where it's not taking away anything, it's adding the low end, it's giving what it needs, but I want it to be like a drone that kind of feels very monotonous. And I think that that kind of came from this subconscious feeling like this song had to had to be interesting, but it had to convey what the song was saying. And the song was saying that like I don't want to be in the same place forever, and I'm afraid that I will be, I guess, and which is the same as always, but in a different wrapping of being home, and leaving home and hoping you don't have to come back and the way that people will see you. But for this we just did like a Logic Bass amp simulation. We did a little bit of distortion on like a distortion pedal that Charlie has, and Charlie is a great bass guitarist. Just like he is electric guitar, just like he is drums. He taught himself too, which is amazing. And he came in and he killed it in 2 takes. He played it all the way through. And this is kind of what we got. And one vision that I had for this album coming in, which is something that I tried to stress to all of my guys that were playing parts on this album, was that I wanted this album to be very rhythmic, mobile, melodic. Um, uh, it always had to have these inspirations of dance pop throughout. Um, and so even if you're playing one note on the bass, which is something we did a couple times throughout this album as kind of a theme of the bass, um, it still had to have this little bit of this push pull stop start, which is something that the drum kit had when it came in. And so I just told him like add a little bit of rhythm and and movement to it without taking away from the fact of this is what it is. And he came in and he was like, well, what do you think of this? And he just plays the whole part, and it was great. And of course, everything we play throughout this is DI, except for acoustic guitar. Um, and then during the bridge, I wanted a little bit of just like underbody to the bass, because the bass is very like hi-fi, and it has this bass pulse throughout. But I wanted something that really just brought like a body of sub. So I played this, or not me. I'll remember who I'll remember who played this part, but we got this part down. And what I liked about the sound is that it had a movement throughout the space. Um, and then we just did our basic um, bass EQ that we do on everything. Bass. Um, Carved out some some room at 60 hertz, which is something I learned from a producer recently, and that's something that I brought in when we were mixing the low end. And that space at 60 hertz gives all of this room for the kick to kind of have its body and have its pulse without being buried by the bass that constantly roaring, constantly moving throughout the space. So that's something I learned, which is really cool. But yeah, we use the warm 70s bass, which has this like flanger tremolo movement throughout, and this like analog warmth to it. And this is a bass that I had put in recently, or put in throughout Fool. That was like one of the main bass sounds that we had for Fool and Away. So I brought this one in, and then having it move with this bass, it looks like this. Stop. I like that there's a little bit of a fight between what these two are playing, which which again adds that push and pull, and obviously this song is very much so a fight in like the mind, you know, and like what you want versus what you have, and pinning these two together to kind of fight against each other in a way, felt like it was very fitting for this song. And then moving on to some of the more melodic parts, this synth was actually here. I played this synth when I demoed it out, this song out, in February, and this synth has now been, sorry, something's going on. Been through here through the beginning of the production process all the way through, and I just played this. And it just has a lot of clip distortion and tremolo on it, and it kind of like it's panned here, so it's kind of like fighting between here, which is really cool. And then eventually, as the verse kicks in, I have something that moves between here, so it kind of again like as melodies go and as the song evolves, it kind of moves throughout the space. And I use the simpler time synth, which is a synth I use throughout the album also, which is something that's really important to me when making an album, is having very distinct sounds and rhythms and structures throughout the album that kind of ties everything together, because I like to jump between genres and topics and different ways of producing. So having these certain sounds and things that tie the album together is really cool. So this is what I had throughout the verse. And again, just a lot of clip distortion, muffling the sound with some EQ, and then just doing some echo and delay. And then this is how it sits with the guitar. And then as the song builds, I wanted there to be some sort of like fuzzy synth that sits on like the underground um, of the of the track as it builds to the chorus. And this is what I came up with. It's the Black Diamond synth, which is something that I used in Far, which again, the recurring theme of using um, the same sounds. And then just muffle the sound, clip distortion. I think I had a Candy Fuzz guitar distortion pedal here, but I think I took it out because it was too much. And then just space and delay, and this is it. And then in context with the track, and then as you get into the next part, we have an electric guitar lead that comes in. I am sad to say that this one and this one were both loops that I used from Logic just because they sounded good, and that was in the early stages when I was kind of working on it by myself. And they just sounded good. They felt like they fit in the track, and they made everything big and lush, and added that melody. Um, so you have that, and then what else did I bring in? I didn't really bring in anything else. I brought in the drum kit and the claps and stuff. So playing that again, you have this. So that's that as it gets into the verse. And then nothing really changes until you get to this. and then here you have an electric guitar strum in the big bridge. And then again, it ties back to that one note of the bass, and and then we have this little guitar solo thing that I found. I know it sounds really crappy on its own, but once you put it in context of the song, it adds that energy that it needs. And that synth that kind of sits in the background. I like the fuzziness and the way it takes up the space, and the melody that we're playing, and that is just so cool. And once you get into this, and then you have the pads. I like I like the way that the two synths kind of like play together in a way that sits really nicely with like the two melodies really like working together um to make this like beautiful rhythm um throughout the bridge. And then we have this synth lead and this mellotron choir that are kind of playing the same thing but really complementing each other. And those come into the second part of the bridge, and you don't really hear them that much, but once you hear the melody within all of the different layers, it just adds that little bit of energy, I guess, which is something I say a lot. But and then something that changes that really isn't given enough credit is making pad bigger. And by what I'm saying is that the pad turns from one note to three into like the C chord, and that just adds a lot of body to the underlying foundation of the song. So it's not like a lot, but just adding that body, and then we have this synth paired with this, and then you kind of put all of that together, and you have this. So yeah, and then that's kind of the end of the track. Um, Yeah, so that's uh looks like my screen was frozen the entire time. Oh yeah. Well, you already heard me kind of talk about everything. So let me just show you guys the song from beginning to end, and you guys get to kind of see what I'm talking about with the whole thing. And this will come out tomorrow, which is the day before the album drops. So you guys kind of get a sneak peek. I'd even talk about the vocals, so you guys get to hear those too. Um, Let me just play it, and I hope you guys like it.
I'm scared, but this is it. I have to return to face it. Don't wanna feel this way forever, but also don't wanna know how I feel years from now. When I go home for the summer, will everything be bigger or smaller somehow? 'Cause all the wasted years I find have somehow made me smarter in your eyes. I don't wanna feel like everything I've done amounts to dirt when I look back. I stay faithful. I stay faithful. Something's gonna keep me away. Happiness is out of my hands, and I can't explain. Does everything have to have a reason? Is that why you pull and you cry? This is one of those situations where sitting quietly could save a life.
Oh, there you guys go. There's the whole track. It's one of my favorites off the album. It took a lot of work, took a lot of just collaboration and persistence to stay with it and know that someday it's gonna pay off. And I'm really proud of this track, and I hope it speaks to you guys like it speaks to me. And I just really hope that you guys like this album as much as I do. Um, I put a lot of work into it and a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of frustration. So um, I hope you guys enjoyed this little breakdown. And I'll see you guys Saturday.